right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of Real Well Radio. I'm here with Matthew Rathgeb of Groovy Hues. Is there this Groovy Hues or is there like
Groovy Hues of Greater Philadelphia?
Greater Hues? Beautiful. I've known Matt a long time. We grew up around the same people. Little known fact, and Mom, earmuffs, we used to cut masks together. His grandpop used to do papers outside of Presentation VBM, and I don't know if it was you or your brother.
That's a great memory, both.
Both of you, Pres Gym, tracks, whatever. Sorry, Mom. She's probably the only one that actually listens to every single one of these. But yeah, man, it's awesome for you to come on. Appreciate you coming on. Like you're to me like the OG of fucking your life up and getting things back on track. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
It's definitely a compliment.
No, I take it.
Give us a quick snapshot of whatever. High school, middle school, bring us through, because there's been a lot of changes for you and just, where we're at today.
Yeah, I mean, basically when you talk about effing your life up, I mean, like a lot of people, I got drunk at a real early age and I didn't really go to high school, to be honest with you. I dropped out in 9th grade, but, even in grade school years, when I look back now, knowing what like alcoholism is, I was probably drinking alcoholically in grade school, 7th and 8th grade. And, it just took over my life quick. And like a lot of people who get caught up in that lifestyle, just gravitated toward a lot of drugs and just elevated to the next best thing that I thought at the time and got real caught up in the culture too. And I loved it at the time. You know what I mean? I dropped out of school real young. So people that I grew up with my age who were still in school, I really couldn't relate to them no more. So I started hanging out with guys that were 10, 15 years older than me who were, involved in a lot of illegal stuff. And I just loved it. I loved being around it. I love the culture. I had super low self-esteem. So, when you put me around there, I guess it unconsciously gave me some level of importance that I thought. But really just tore my life apart and then started really doing hard drugs at 20 years old. And, bounced in and out of detoxes and rehabs and did all that stuff. And just I could never really see the problem. And I can never really visualize being sober because I didn't know anyone that lived a life like that.
Right.
Everyone I was surrounded by were, drug dealers, alcoholics, and drug addicts. A lot of people I hung out with had the same life I had. Alcoholic fathers, stay-at-home moms, just, chaotic situations, all crammed in 700 square foot row houses. So it was, the abnormal becomes normal.
Right.
And, you can't see outside the box, but, one day, God really blessed me with the gift of desperation. I was so desperate walking to the projects in our neighborhood in Hill Creek. Just another day, and I got just completely overwhelmed with so much pain. At the time, I was like 120 pounds, full-blown heroin addict, addicted to crack cocaine, and I made a call to my buddy Mike. He was the only guy I knew who was sober, and that started my journey.
Beautiful, man, beautiful. And then, once you get sober, you at some point. So for me and for a lot of people, it's like, all right, so what's the path of least resistance? Like start my own business, something easy, or do I have to go through the entire interview process and hope someone's not looking into the path, whatever. So like, what was the thought process of starting the business for the first time?
Really, so I moved into a recovery house. I put myself in there. So I was homeless at the time when I got sober, and I was homeless for the first week of sobriety. And I was like going to 12-step meetings, and I ran into somebody who was in a recovery house that I knew from the streets. So he got me in there at the prep house at Princeton State Road. I lived there for a year. And it's funny, I'm running a meeting there on Wednesday nights right now, and I was just looking back, like I slept in the basement of the basement. There was like a sub-basement down there.
Is it a basement of a basement?
And it's like, it looked like a prison cell, like in the third world country. And but I was just happy to have a roof over my head. And, what happened was because I had such low self-esteem, I had a murky past with some arrests and things like that. And I was a drug addict, you know what I mean? So I had incredibly low self-esteem, which actually benefited me in time. So a guy gave me a job, Bobby, who's one of my best friends, painting. And I remember thinking 2 years sober, you know what, I want to be successful. I had a zest for life and a passion to live and grow, but I didn't think that I fit into the real world. If I couldn't get a job at McDonald's probably on paper.
Right.
So I was kind of forced into it, to be honest with you. It was kind of one of those things where, someone sent me a Tony Robbins clip, and it said, if you want to take the fucking island, burn the ships.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have no choice but to start my own business and try to maximize the only skill that I knew how. So that's kind of how I got into it.
It's good stuff. take us through, like we're gonna backpedal at some point, but take us through the process of scaling, because it's something a lot of people, it's obviously happened over time for you. I mean, how long have you, like, what was day one of the painting business?
March 2011.
Okay, all right, so we're well over
I
a
had 2
decade.
bedrooms to paint in Roxborough from a coworker of my wife's. That was my first job. Traded in my Honda Accord that I just bought, and had a van, and had really just a heart filled with faith. And I knew what I was doing as far as the technical work, but I didn't know anything about business.
Right.
I didn't find that out till later.
A lot of growing pains, a lot of stumbling blocks, I'm sure. I mean, anybody at this point that gets in business with you also gets all your experience, right? So, like, all that stuff's very valuable, the lessons that you learn and all that. Like, take me through the process of the ramp up, like, quickly, not, you in that van and the 2 paintbrushes in Roxborough, fast forward a couple years. Like, how does that all play out?
So, as I was running the painting business, and it was kind of running me, to be honest with you, because I'm wearing every hat, I'm slinging a paintbrush, I'm doing estimates at night, I'm working weekends, and I just can't see the dysfunction, right? But at some point, a few years into it, I realized, like, is this really the dream? You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't the dream. The dream was to start a business and have freedom and make more money. And I didn't have either of those things at that time. But we had a great following. We had a great brand that I was building, but the brand was me. And I went to a mastermind group in 2017 in New York City. I was losing my luster for the business. I had like $6,000 left in the bank, and this mastermind group was $5,000. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. And I went there to learn real estate because everyone who was there was like in some form of real estate, thinking that looked a little shinier. So when I put my garbage on the floor and it was my turn to talk and tell everyone where I was at, the feedback I got was like, why are you looking over here? Like, you already have a foundation painting business, and it's not shinier over here. You need to get focused on what you're doing. So the takeaway I had anticipated for that weekend was totally opposite of what I went home with. And I went home like, yeah, I gotta do this. And so I hired a business coach, and he said, Matt, listen, if you want to grow this business, and he had a multi-million-dollar painting business down south. He said, I'm going to help you. He said, the first rule is if I find out that you're painting yourself, this relationship's over. Wow. Because I'm going to teach you how to build a business, not be a painter. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest with you. The hardest thing I ever did in my business was stop doing the technical work and step over to the threshold of running it like a businessman. That was very, very hard for me.
And that's probably, giving up control is hard for anybody. Your name's stamped on every job, and you have to train and trust people to do it the way you would do it. No one's going to ever care as much as you, and that's the full process.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So take us through the name changes, just a little bit, because I was over at Getz's house, and he was talking about having you guys paint his door. I'm not going to paint his door, and he goes, the painting pups. I'm like, what? And he's like, I don't know why they call it that either.
So, well, like I said recently, we were I was trying to get the brand just away from my name.
Right.
Because as I grew, like, an old family business is good, but like, I wanted to see if I could scale into different markets. It's really tough to do that. So, and there was more people that worked here other than me. So, I wanted to rebrand. So we rebranded. It just didn't work out. We'll just say it. We'll leave it at that. So I went back to, like we always do. We go back to what's familiar and what's comfortable. I go back to my family name, and then as soon as I did that, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of a waste of time too. So the Groovy Hues thing is, I'll put this on my life as the last time I'll ever rebrand. And what Groovy Hues is actually a national franchise. And there was no acquisition or anything like that, but I knew the guy, Josh, who owns the company that Groovy Hues is part of. So it's a big company called Horsepower Brands. Groovy Hues is one of their brands, obviously the painting. And they were I was looking to rebrand and looking, honestly, Brian, like you said, as crazy as it sounds, like I love what I do. I'm sure you love what you do. There is a little bit of an emotional connection to it because painting kind of saved my life in a way. You know what I'm saying? It gave me a purpose, and it gave me a drive, and it taught me so many invaluable life lessons that I also wanted to see how I could possibly help the industry as a whole. You know what I mean? I didn't know what that meant. Does that mean growing? You're giving people jobs. You are helping society. As a business owner, you have a responsibility for those things. but I wanted to see how we could grow it. It just became like the perfect symmetry between what I was looking to do and what Josh and the people at Horsepower Brands were looking for a founder, for someone that came from the industry to be their founding location, so we could offer industry-specific knowledge and help their franchises and their franchisees. So it was just a perfect, a godsend for me, to be honest with you. So it's been going great. It's been a few months. Obviously, like yourself, there's probably a lot of people confused about,
Well, I wanted to give you the platform because this is the biggest podcast in this side of the Mississippi. And I wanted to give you the platform. There's a lot, people see it from a distance, and people make up things in their own minds. So
yeah, I mean, we said that we did the email blast. There's like 20,000 mailers, direct mail going out this week, just to explain to people. Like, look, we know we look unorganized. When you're trying to level up anything and change in your life, there's going to be some speed bumps. You're not going to get that right on the first try. So we want them to know this is Groovy Hues of Greater Philadelphia, which is my location that I own 100% of. Is still the family value business that has always been, with a different name. It may look corporate or, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's still the same painters. It's still me as the owner. It's still the same salespeople, the operations people, the person's answering the phone. So it's business as usual. But how it's helped my business is I've been able to get, a lot of stuff from them that they were doing that I wasn't doing, like better systems, better processes. Really, at the end of the day, it's always about making the customer experience better. Yeah, we paint. I mean, if you want to know if we do a good job of doing that, just Google our name right now. You'll quickly find out we do. But how can we? That's just one piece of it. And when you're a technician painting, you're confused. You think that's the whole business, but it's not. It's actually about 15% of what the business does. So I wanted to, I've been able to implement some things that Horsepower does that made my business better and is making my business better too.
Similar to me, like people think I open doors and let people in houses. Like that's like 2% of
well,
what I do.
I have a lot of friends that are realtors, and real estate realtors have been instrumental in growing my company too.
Right.
I mean, when I stopped painting, like the real estate market was booming, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So like, I built a lot of great relationships, and, just with the recent lawsuit or whatever that's going on in your industry, like people think like, realtors are making too much money, they don't do shit. But I see all the work behind closed doors. It's insane the amount of work that goes into a transaction.
It's just like anything with sales. Some are hard, some are not as hard, and we also could be working with someone for years and years and years and not make a penny off it. Whatever. I mean, this is not the platform for it. It's all nuts.
It's not the COVID market that it was, where it seemed like everything was a layup.
For a seller, but when you're running a buyer and putting in 15 offers for him because it was so hard to find, specific houses for people because there wasn't enough on the market, like that wasn't great. If you're selling a house during COVID, boom, you have 100,000 over asking, and it's sold in a day or two, but what about the 14 other buyers that had offers in that didn't get that house? You know what I'm saying? So it was never like great.
And everything's a crisis in real estate.
Yes.
That's what my buddy Mike McNichol always says. Everything's a crisis.
All right, let's pivot a little bit. This is, obviously an entrepreneur, real podcast, but we also like to talk about the wellness side, like what we do on a daily basis to get up, tackle the day. So, like, what is your process? I know you got, like, some young kids. So
Four kids. 4 kids. Some are young. I'm an early riser, 7 days a week, not 5. And I said that to a guy I coach baseball with. He says, why would you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on weekends? And I'm like, that 2 hours from 5 to 7 is the only free time that I have.
Right.
Once 7 starts, the workday starts, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. And honestly, it gets a little harder when you go home at the end of the day and have to, go to soccer practice, go to baseball. Yeah. And my wife and I, divide and conquer a lot because of the intense schedules that we have. But I joined a gym, but I like to work out in my garage, to be honest with you. I just get up, drink my pre-workout, hit the garage, work out, then I do my prayer, a little bit of meditation, check in with a couple people that are in recovery. We'll send each other some positive literature to start your day, and then I kind of hit the ground running. I make at least 2 meetings a week still. I like to make more when I can. In the winter, when my business slows down a little bit, I make 4. I'm always in some form of service. I mean, I'm a huge believer, in, especially in recovery, but in business too, being in some form of service and using your business as a form of service. I don't know if you recently saw last year we painted the Longcrest wreck.
I did.
Yeah, like I walked into the wreck because Sean Breslin was working up there, and I said I gotta come up there and take a trip down memory lane. And I walked in the gym, I'm like, holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
It was the paint from when you were. It literally was, and they had the 76ers teenage basketball league sign up that we hung there when I was like 14, and I was like, man, this thing needs a paint job. And I know the city was lacking funds, so it was just light bulb went off. look for, but you know, trying to be in service, you know, just trying to maximize everything you do, trying to be the best dad I can be. We fall short of these things every day, but I try to get up every morning, start my morning with prayer, meditation, and working out. And sometimes working out just means walking around my block a couple times and watching the sun come up or something like that. But I tap into things that make me feel good, some sort of wellness, and then I just hit the ground running.
I do pretty much the same stuff. Besides working out in the morning, I usually do that midday just because of the way my schedule works out. But there's like one thing that is just so instrumental that everybody who comes in here that runs successful businesses says, and it's getting up early. Like,
Get up early. Yeah.
It's really like, it's just no brainer. I don't know.
I love that time.
Yeah, same. And I do the breathing exercise, the meditation, all that same stuff. And the day as it progresses can throw you curveballs, but setting that foundation for yourself, for me, is just huge. And then
and that time's sacred. Like I can't let anything interrupt that time.
Right.
You know?
And there's nobody around to
There's
interrupt.
no one interrupt that. And if you try to, I'm not letting you.
Right. One of my favorite questions I ask everyone, and you know, you've had a lot of changes come and go, but like what's one thing that you could say like you're really proud of yourself for, you know, over the 13, 14 years, or it could be going back to whenever you got, you know, clean.
I never even thought about that, to be honest with you,
It's because there's always something
I
else
would
you want to
say-
accomplish, right?
I've been blessed with a gift that I'm grateful for of stick-to-itiveness.
That's
Just
good.
doing the small little things. I know I just did an interview with Suburban Life magazine, and the guy says, you know, what do you attribute it to? I was like, it's all those small things that you do behind closed doors that no one sees. Like, you know, we can do a podcast and talk about success, and there's no shortage of that right now, right, around here. But it's like the amount of stuff that you have to do, you know what I mean? To attain
Behind
that,
it's something nobody sees.
So, and you know, just a fighter, like, you know, being in recovery and fighting off the addiction. I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you had to narrow down to one thing, it's getting sober. There's nothing. I mean, as much as it might sound crazy to people who don't understand addiction or have never lived addiction, me getting sober is by far the biggest accomplishment of my life. More than having a family, more than anything. Like nothing to me will ever hold a candle to that.
That's good stuff. And the majority of people I've had on here are in recovery. And, you know, most of them haven't said that, whether they don't want to put it out there or they just thought other things. Because as you've had this happen in your head, like as you do move along, it's like that becomes less and less unless you push it to the front, for me at least. Like it becomes less and less of an accomplishment.
Yeah, well, you lose sight.
Exactly.
Because you get caught up. I mean, like, you know, I talk about it with my friends in recovery all the time. Like, we have such great lives. And you kind of got to step back. And the way that it keeps me grounded is to help, you know, the new guy that's coming in try to get sober. And it brings me back, like, you know, to that sub basement that I slept in, like, you know, detoxing from heroin and the hell that was. And, yeah, it was hard.
It's a reminder that, you know, things aren't getting any better out there.
Nah, they're not, man.
Yeah.
You know, we've all lost a lot of people to addiction. I recently lost my little brother. And, yeah, it's crazy. It's just insane what it is out there right now. I'm glad I got out.
I'm glad you did too.
Likewise, brother.
Are you a big fan of any of the podcasts or, you know, for mindset stuff, books?
I mean, I read a lot. I really self-educated myself. I've read hundreds of books. You know, take a little nugget from each one and all that. But I'm not really, right now I'm actually off of social media. So I go on social media breaks a lot. I mean, I just think like, you know, and I'm guilty of just like everybody else of posting a lot towards certain times. But there's certain times where I'm like, you know, I got to take a break from this stuff because it can be very distracting. And sometimes I lose focus. And when you have 4 kids and you're trying to run a business that has a lot of day-to-day moving parts like all of us, you know, it's easily get distracted. If you lose an hour scrolling social media during the day and then your mind's in a different place, not focused, you can lose a lot of production that way. So I'm on a little break right now. I'm not watching any podcasts right now. I always read. Every night I read before I go to bed. I've read, you know, tons of books, spiritual books, business books, you know, tons of stuff like that, self-help books. Usually that's the type of stuff that I read. Something that's going to make me grow a little bit or give me a different idea or some insight.
That's good stuff. Comment a little bit off the, you know, right there. When you're taking those social media breaks, besides gaining time back, what else are you experiencing?
Peace, to be honest with you. Yeah, and I got to be honest. Like, and again, I don't want to be the hypocrite because people call me like, I see you're not on social media now. Like, I encourage you to take a couple months off. But when I'm on there, I know.
Is that what it is though? A couple months when you do it?
I wasn't on social media for 2 full years. Yeah, from COVID to early 2022, I was completely off of it. And
That's
I got to
good
be honest
stuff.
with you, my business thrived. Those were the best 2 years I had in a long time.
Mm.
And there's no coincidence there. And again, people say you need it for business. Like I've been on social media, other than those 2 years, off and on the whole time I've been in business. I can count on one hand how many jobs I got there.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard to track.
Well, realtors are all over social media.
Yeah, and I hate it, but it's something I feel like I got to do.
Well, people say it's a necessary evil. You got to stay relevant and all that. But for me, I find when I'm off, I get better ideas, and I'm more productive, and I'm just more intelligent. That's just for me.
No, I could see it, and I might take you up on that. I don't know about a couple months though, but we'll.
It takes about a month to get used to it.
Yeah.
You grabbing your phone, like, oh shit, I'm off of that right now. Yeah.
Maybe buy a flip phone or something for those times when you want to transfer.
Just gotta do it.
I don't know. It's good stuff. All right, brother. I really appreciate you coming on. Was there anything else you want to tell the world?
No, just keep plugging away, whatever you're doing, man.
Well, before we ask our one last and favorite question, tell everybody how to find you on the internet.
You can find us on the internet at Groovy Hues.
Social media.
Our business is Groovy Hues /GreaterPhiladelphia.com. You know, you can email me at mrathgeb@groovyhues.com. RATHGEB is my last name. And I'm not going to give you my cell phone number.
I don't blame you. So, this is a non-negotiable. You have to answer this question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower.
Yeah. This is always a stumper.
To have zero fear. No fear.
Can we point to a comic book character who has that?
I don't know. Can you?
I don't think so.
Because I think everyone has a small dose of it.
It is.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great
brother.
seeing you. Great
Likewise,
catching up.
man.
Like, subscribe, share. Reach out to Matt for any painting needs and me for any real estate needs. Talk to you later.